Hey, Bruce the Labdad here. A lot of people ask, are washable pee pads worth it compared to disposable pee pads? And the short answer is yes, but as always, it depends. So let's talk about it. There's a lot of factors that go into your decision about whether you're going to use a washable pad or a disposable pad. And from a financial standpoint, from a use standpoint, a washable pad is absolutely worth it. But it depends on the situation you're in. If you're traveling and you need something quick, easy to get rid of, great spot for a disposable pad. If you're at home and you're doing normal use, you're doing puppy training, great spot for a reusable pad. There are two or three items that really differentiate between washable and disposable pee pads. First one is going to be the cost, second, the durability, and third, the use and availability when you need them. So, from a cost standpoint, oftentimes disposable pee pads seem like they're a more cost effective solution. You can buy 25 or 50 or 100 in a pack. You can go to a discount store and buy hundreds and dozens of washable pee pads, and they're pennies on the dollar. And the reality is twofold. Number one, they're typically small, and number two, the average price really is about 60 cents a piece. The third reality to that is once they get used, once they get urinated on, you have to throw them away. And puppies urinate a lot, and incontinent dogs dribble a lot. And so you can go through 6, 8, 10 pee pads a day, and at 60 cents a piece, that could be $5 to $6 a day. From a durability standpoint, it really depends on your use and application. If you're traveling, it doesn't make much sense to have a washable pee pad because you don't really have a situation where you can wash it, clean it, and use it again. And so disposable pads make good sense when you're traveling in a hotel in a different location. So, as with a lot of things, I think it's important to look at the long term cost of using pee pads. Initially, it seems like reusable pads are the least expensive way to go. As we talked previously, when you start to think about using 6, 8, 10 pads a day, you start to see a cost that could be in the $5, $6, $7 a day range. Now, multiply that over a week, and now you're getting into the $30 and $40 range. Multiply it over a month, and you're getting into the $100, $120, $150 a month in cost. Typically, also, those pads are a lot smaller. With reusable pads and washable pads, typically the pads are going to be larger, and your cost is going to be maybe in the $20, $25, $30 a range for a very large and a nice size pad. Buying 2, 3, or 4 of those, you might get a little bit of a discounted price. But those pads are going to last you wash after wash after wash. In fact, typically washable pads are good well in excess of 300 washes, and certainly can be used beyond that. And so, if you're really comparing the fact that you might spend maybe $120 on 3 or 4 washable pads that are going to last you months and months and months, maybe up to a year or even more, and then comparing that to $150 a month for disposable pads, it really, from a long-term perspective, the washable pads make the most financial sense. Good washable pee pads really have almost an indefinite amount of life. It really comes down to 2 or 3 factors. Number one, how aggressive you're washing them, how often you're washing them, what kind of quality materials are they made from? Are they made from locally sourced materials? Are they made from imported materials? The typical failure points on a washable pad is either fading in the pattern, which typically doesn't affect the performance, or 2, delamination and failure of the waterproof barrier. And that's really can be more significant. And quite frankly, is the most important part of a washable pad is how durable is that waterproof barrier? What kind of materials is it made out of? How environmentally friendly is it? And how long is it going to last through repeated washings? The important part about washing pee pads is to wash them properly. We typically recommend that they're laundered in warm to hot water. We do that with a detergent that's both pet safe and what removes odors. And then the most important thing with washable pee pads is that you dry them on medium heat or let them air dry. The important part about a pee pad that keeps it waterproof is the vinyl back on it. And if you dry them too hot, you can either permanently destroy it or prematurely just destroy the vinyl. And so it's important that you wash them properly, and that will give you the longest amount of life. Check out our other videos on YouTube about how to properly wash and recommendations for washing reusable pee pads. So a question that often comes up is, how do washable pee pads absorb versus reusable pee pads? And from a fundamental standpoint, they're all meant to absorb. And so on the surface, literally and figuratively, they're going to absorb liquid. The challenge is how much do they absorb and what happens to the liquid that is absorbed? If you really look at a disposable pee pad, it's just extremely thin. Effectively, think about a paper towel. That's effectively as thick as this is. Paper towel is going to soak in, but the thing about a paper towel is it's going to remain wet. And so if a puppy is walking across that after it's wet, before you've changed it, they're going to track that wetness into the other places that they go. With a washable pee pad, you have certainly a larger surface. You have a soaker layer on the inside. And so the top layer absorbs the liquid. It goes into the soaker below, and then the top layer quickly dries. And so you're not going to have those tracking issues and the puppy walking around. Plus, in most pads, that soaker layer, and this is a big variable in pads, by the way, is how thick that soaker layer really is. And that's going to determine how much liquid can be retained in that pad. So oftentimes, we're always looking for a good deal and the best price. But sometimes the things you can't see when you're shopping, especially if you're shopping on the internet, is just how thick that pad really feels. But once you get them in your hands and you feel them, what you're really feeling is the thickness of this soaker layer. This layer is always the same. The vinyl layer is the same, but how thick is the soaker layer? And they vary. They vary from a couple of ounces of fabric to 11 ounces of fabric. And it makes a huge difference on how much liquid can be retained. I think the challenge also that comes with pads is how much they move around, how much the dog slips and slides, how much puppies and their horseplay can move them around. Obviously, again, we kind of have our disposable pad here, very paper-like, easy to slide around. The advantage you have from a reusable pad is it's thicker, it's heavier. Some reusable pads promote having some pebbly, silicone type bubbles or nodules on the bottom that are supposed to keep it from slipping and sliding. While there is some limited functionality to that, what we often find is that after numerous washings, that's a early point of failure where those are either coming off or becoming hard and not really being functional. So what's the added benefit of those? I guess that's up for you to decide. I think one of the challenges when you start to compare reusable pads and disposable pads is obviously if you can get 50 or 100 pads that are disposable into a package, that means they are thin and they are flimsy. And dogs like to chew on things and do things, and they're easy to tear and rip and come apart. And now you have a mess, and it may not have even been used. Where with a reusable pad, obviously heavy duty, very tough. Can dogs chew on things? Absolutely, they chew on everything. But they're not pulling this apart. They can't really get into that. If they scratch at it, they're not necessarily scrunching it up, and they're not making a mess out of it. And if it gets moved around, at least it can be moved back, put in place, and continue to be used. Historically, there's been an evolution of pee pads and pee pad patterns, obviously the washable ones. They all started out because, remember, washable pee pads came from the healthcare business. They came as bed pads and hospital pads, and we started using them for dogs. And so those were all white. It was just a very original color. And then a few changes came about with kind of some standardized plaid patterns and some other things like that. And if you talk to people that are in the breeding business, they generally have two opinions. One is, I want a white pad so that anything that happens on that pad, I can see it. I can see discharges, I can see blood, I can see anything that's happening on that pad. And that's their preference and their opinion. Other people that are in the breeding business like to have a colored pad because they don't want to see anything. And that's their opinion, and that's how they do it. I think when the patterns really started to come into play was when we started to look at washable pee pads that were used for more residential purposes. And so you started to see a whole lot of pads on the market that had, fun designs with colors and paws and bones and paw prints and all those things that went with it. And there's just been an overabundance of those that are obviously focused on dogs. The current evolution has been interesting because we're starting to see some pads that have more what we would call a home style pattern, or patterns that look like rugs, and are a little more comfortable being in the house and don't just yell, "Hey, I'm a pee pad." And so it's a good idea, but at the same time, if you have other rugs in your house and only one of them is a pee pad, then I'm not sure you want your dog actually thinking rugs are pee pads and then having to decide which is the proper one to use. So from that standpoint, we've actually come up with a line of home style pads that number one is decorative and fits home styling that is not like your rugs. Has some dogs on it with some nice neutral home style colors, and then a couple of options that if your dog's used to going to the bathroom on grass, why not have a pee pad that looks like grass? And then if you really want to go old school, because we all used to use newspapers, why shouldn't a pee pad just look like newspaper? And then the dog knows where that goes. Plus, it gives us a fun talking point that, hey, we're still using newspaper for our pee pads. So at the end of the day, is the right answer washable pee pads or is the right answer disposable pee pads? And we started out by saying it depends. And what it really depends on is what your application is. If you're traveling, having something handy, easy to carry, take into a hotel, take into a friend's house, take into your parents' house, having a disposable pad is easy. You can throw it away. It's simple. If you live in a apartment or a housing situation where you don't have easy access to laundry and it is not reasonable for you to wash and reuse pee pads, great application for disposable pads. Now, at the same time, if as long as you have laundry capabilities available, if you live in an apartment where you don't have easy access to taking your dog outside, maybe you have a patio or a space in your house or your apartment, great place for reusable pads. You don't have to change them all the time. You can use some odor eliminator to mask the odor so you don't have to wash them as frequently. If you're in a house, if you have whelping boxes, if you're raising puppies, if you have an incontinent older dog, all kinds of applications in a home where having a washable pee pad makes sense both from a financial standpoint, a use standpoint, and a durability standpoint. At the end of the day, if you live in an apartment, if you don't have a washer and dryer, or you're traveling, great uses for disposable pads. Everything else, washable pads. So if you're tired of always looking for the best deals on disposable pads, if you're tired about dumping all the disposable pads into the landfill, if you're tired about running out of disposable pads in the middle of the night and not having anything, it's a good time to use reusable pads. Look into great, high quality, made in America reusable pads, have thick soakers, long lasting vinyl, last hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of washes. Yes, do they cost more up front? Absolutely they do. But you won't buy any more along the way. You'll be throwing dollars and dollars away with disposable pads, with recyclable pads, reusable pads. You will use them weeks, months, years, and get long-term use out of them. Lakeside Products is a family-owned manufacturer of premium American-made products that serve the life and activities of your pets from their first breath to their senior years. Our Iowa-based team of dedicated family members and pet owners prides themselves in top-quality craftsmanship and quick order fulfillment and delivery. From our location in the heartland, direct to the pets that hold a place in your heart, we are here for the entire life cycle of your pets.